Last month, the school committee approved the handbooks for the upcoming school year, including the continuation of high school attendance policies. However, some committee members expressed concerns about chronic absenteeism, defined as missing 18 or more days during the school year. According to the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, by March, about 20% of high school students were chronically absent this school year, double the district's 10% rate. At the June 4th meeting, Needham High School Principal Aaron Seacott and his team provided a detailed overview of the absenteeism issue. They also explained how staff members are supporting students with attendance challenges.
Under the current pilot attendance program in place for the past 2 years, students with more than 5 absences per term in a class will lose 1 credit for that class, unless the absences are excused, which include illness with a medical note, bereavement, college visits, and religious holidays. Assistant Principal Mary Kay Alessi noted school staff intervene early to prevent credit losses.
If we see a pattern, whether it's having first block absences on a regular basis, or they're just accumulating, 2, 3, 4 absences early in the term, we have a conversation with them. We talk about the impact from an academic perspective, from a skill building perspective, and then from a credit loss perspective.
The school also communicates with parents when a student shows a pattern of absences during a term. To encourage school learning, students can earn their credit back by not losing any credit the following term.
When we have these conversations with students, a really large chunk of them actually have been able to shift their behavior so that they can earn those credits back and improve their attendance.
In response to a committee member's question, Alessi shared last year's data, which showed about 3% of students lost 1 or more credits and less than 1% lost 5 or more credits.
It's a pretty small number. What I have seen is that the intervention is really the key to success. I went back and looking at the data, we send out warning information partway through the term, and then at the end we send out the credit loss. Less than 50% of students who get a warning letter actually end up losing credit.
For students struggling with chronic absenteeism, identifying the reasons behind that behavior is a top priority for staff.
Is it a medical issue? Is it a mental health issue that they have been receiving treatment outside of school? Is it a behavioral issue? Is it a school avoidance issue? So we're really kind of looking at what is the why.
Director of Counseling Data Plunkett highlighted weekly Wednesday meetings. At these meetings, a team of counselors, nurses, and teachers discuss students who need help with behavior, including attendance issues.
And we really try at that moment to problem solve as a collective team as to what interventions we need to put in place, what information we have, who's communicated with home, who's communicated with the student, what plans are working.
The school also assesses the needs of students with chronic absences twice a year.
We sort of have checkpoints at the mid-year and the end of the year to see where are we with this particular student. And this is probably about, I would say, about 10 or 12 students who rise to that level.
The school's transition program supports students returning to school after an extended absence, usually more than 5 days.
Students transition back into that program and then slowly into their classes as we're catching them up on their academics and integrating them back into their classes at a manageable pace so that they can be successful academically, but also receive the clinical support that they may need in order to make that transition.
Students who need to stay home or in the hospital for 14 days or more due to medical reasons are entitled to home hospital tutoring. When they return to school, they are enrolled in the transition program as well.
The transition program facilitated the transition of 51 students this year, and about 40% of those students in the transition program receive some kind of clinical support from our clinician who's attached to that program. So I would say about 20 of those students were ones who had mental health concerns outside of school that were receiving services and coming back into our school.
Plunkett emphasized while the chronic absenteeism rate is decreasing post-pandemic, absences related to mental health are on the rise. Committee member Matt Spangler called for a more thoughtful policy regarding illness absences. He and his colleague Alyssa Scatchard voted against passing the handbook last month. They expressed skepticism about requiring students to provide medical documents instead of just a parent note to avoid credit loss. They worried this policy might unintentionally encourage students to come to school while sick or mentally unwell.
They're having a panic attack. They got a fever. That the way it's currently structured, it really places families in a potential bind of saying, because kids do stress out about credit. So maybe as we look at the data from this year, from this pilot, it would be helpful to at least understand just the rationale for why a parent note does not count as an excused absence.
Superintendent Dan Gudekans acknowledged the issue will be examined more deeply, but also highlighted the challenges.
There are families that take advantage of writing notes for their children. I think that's part of the conundrum and part of the data collection and what exactly is happening there, because that in fact does happen, and that's part of what we're trying to address.
Dr. Gudekans noted a report from the administration regarding chronic absenteeism across the district will be available in December or January. For Needham Channel News, I'm Yu Xiaoyuan.